What is up, guys? It's Dan the Man, and today I'm back with round 2 of the 2026 May Action tournament held here at Chess Zone. And as of round 2, I have a score of 1 out of 1. If you haven't seen that video, go on ahead and swing over. But basically, long story short, I had a lot of momentum and pressure building up on White's king side. My pieces were just super active, super menacing, and I managed to deliver a brutal attack against the White King, and essentially just win in a brutal fashion. But quickly in round 2, the difficulty and the caliber of the player increases by a lot. So round 2, I'm paired against Caden Qiao, who I think is a recent new time viewer of the channel. So Caden, if you're watching this, great game we had, and I'm going to go ahead. Hopefully you like the analysis I'm going to go ahead and show you. Thanks for the game, and look forward to playing you again sometime. So in this game of the tournament, I have the white pieces, and Caden, very experienced player, 2100 rating, has the black pieces. And it was quite an interesting game here, so I want to go ahead and show it to you. So here, I go with e4, and Caden and I last played at the Georgia Amateur and Open, but I was playing with black pieces, so I didn't really know what Caden played as black. As white, he played the Italian game, but as black, I don't really know what his prep was. So I guess he's a French player because he played the move e6 immediately. I go with d4. We get d5, and here I decide to go with knight c3. And this is just one of the main moves. I was thinking he'd go into the winnower with bishop to b4, which is what I see most often online, I think. But he decides to take on e4, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. Knight takes e4. And this is sort of resembling a Caro-Kann because a lot of the moves are analogous to it. Like black can play knight f6, black can play knight d7 to support knight f6. This is sort of mirroring the Caro-Kann a bit, except black goes a pawn on e6 instead of a pawn on c6. Anyway, Caden played knight d7 with the idea to develop the knight to f6 and then take back with that knight on d7. And that's what happens. Knight f3, he plays knight on g to f6. I just go ahead and take. He takes with the knight, as I said, just recapturing with the knight he developed. Here, we're both blitzing this out. We each haven't even spent a minute on time. I play bishop d3. He plays bishop e7. We're just playing autopilot. We both castle here. And here I already have like a 0.6, 0.7 advantage somehow, but it's pretty negligible. Apparently the move to have the slight advantage is knight e5, which I didn't play because it's sort of like moving a piece twice in the opening. You know, you don't really want to do that, but it's just centralizing the knight. Black can't take the pawn because they would hang a discovered check, and that knight's just really annoying, and it's sort of invading black's position a little bit. So the engine recommends like knight d7 here to try to trade it off, and then white would just develop. But even this best line, white's only marginally better, so it's pretty negligible here. So here I play a mistake. I'm pretty surprised to see this as a mistake. Apparently the move c4 is not, the engine doesn't like it. I thought this was a pretty sensible move, just gaining some more space, preventing knight d5. But apparently I dropped my 0.7, 0.8 advantage to zeros. And here Caden played the best move. He plays b6, ready to fianchetto on the diagonal. Here it's a very flexible position. There's so much you can do here. I play h3. He plays bishop to b7 here. And here I just developed my last piece with bishop to e3, making sure my d4 pawn's defended in the event he would take my knight on f3. Here he plays the move c5. Very good move here, just directly challenging the center, directly trying to open some files, trying to get his pieces. Yeah, c5 is just an excellent move here. And here, I think I came back from the restroom here, and I wasn't like staring at the board for a few minutes, like all at the time. I sort of had to reset and look at the board from a fresh perspective. And here I just took immediately. I'm like, why not? And Caden moves very fast. Like I think he's a very experienced player, and I think he has a lot of these lines like memorized or prepped. So he's moving very fast here. Because I was sort of like seeing the board again for like after the restroom, I kind of wasn't thinking for a long time about what he'd do. So I was kind of surprised when he took on f3. And I'm like, really? You're giving up your bishop on f3? But then I realized, like, I thought I almost hung a piece here. That's funny. I actually low-key thought I had hung a piece on move 12. Because if I take with the queen, he takes my bishop on d3. So by doing this, he actually forces me to double my pawns, which is inconvenient. I thought I low-key had hung a piece, and I have to take back the undesired way. But the funny thing is that the only move to keep the advantage at minus 1.2 is for Caden to take back with the bishop. This is Caden. If you're seeing this, maybe in the comments we can analyze together why bishop takes c5 is so much better. I'm gonna share my thoughts, but maybe your thoughts are a little better. So the reason bishop takes c5 is better is because after bishop takes bishop e4. The point of bishop e4 is I'm trying to, because my pawns are doubled, I want to try to go into an endgame where I can't get mated. So bishop e4, it's forcing a trade of queens because the rook's hanging. So after rook b8, I would take like this and then b3. Apparently this position is minus 2.7, minus 2.8. Like black is just completely winning essentially in this endgame, just because of the doubled pawns. But here Caden took back the wrong way. He took with b takes c5, and it looks very similar. Like I went bishop e4 to try to force the queen trade, right, because my pawns are doubled. Rook b8 takes b3. This version is a draw. This version is zeros, while this version is minus 2.7. So my theory is that if you look at these two positions, you'll notice that in this position in the game, we both have our dark squared bishops. But in this one, they're traded off. And I have one bishop and he has his knight. And I think the reason is that my bishop was applying some pressure on the c-pawn, which probably made it be more drawn. But since I don't really have any sort of threats on black, black can start making threats on me with moves like knight h5, knight f4 to try to attack my position. That's my theory. I think it has something to do with the dark squared bishops being gone. Because here they're present, but in the other one they're not here. That's my theory. But again, this is very interesting. Like one version you take back the wrong way and it's drawn, and the other version it's essentially the same position with a couple nuances, but it's a different story. That's how chess is sometimes. Anyway, that's kind of interesting. But back to the game, I play b3 to defend my pawn. He plays king f8, totally logical move, just bringing the king to the center. I play rook on a to d1. Here he plays knight d7. Interesting move, I have to say. I think he was trying to reroute to e5. So here, we actually talked after the game. I played the move f4 here to try to prevent the knight from going to e5. And also maybe play f5 myself to try to open some files. But Caden actually told me here I should have played bishop to f4, or I don't know if he knew it for sure, but he suggested it to me. And this is why Caden's 2100. Bishop f4 is the best move. To me, it looks illogical because you just get hit with e5. But apparently, even though you get hit with e5, white's just better here, because I think it's because black put their pawn on e5 like voluntarily, and now their knight can't go there. Period. So I don't know. Like just getting hit with the pawn is sort of unnatural, but Caden must have thought otherwise. So this is why he's a better player. So here I play f4. Here he plays f5 himself, preventing my idea. Here I play bishop to g2 here. Time-wise, it's pretty even. I am down a few minutes, but it's not the end of the world. He plays knight f6 here. I play rook f to e1 to give my king some space to get to the center. He plays king f7. I play king f1. He plays knight e4, which I was actually pleased to see because that knight is pretty strong, and my bishop's pretty weak on g2, so I immediately took it. And what that does is it also doubles his pawns, so maybe I was thinking about winning the pawn on e4 because it's pretty hard to defend it, actually. So here I play this interesting move, bishop to c1, and I'm already attacking the pawn on e4 like this, and he actually can't defend it. That's funnily enough. So I'm like, oh, okay, I might just be winning a pawn. But here he plays rook takes d1, rook takes d1, and here he starts a queenside counterattack, which is very, very creative of him. He plays the move a5 here, and he's basically tempting me to go for the pawn on e4, but at the cost of compromising my queenside. And actually, looking at the engine, the first move I was thinking about was rook e1, which is actually fine, according to the engine. I'll show the line with rook e1. He would have played a4 to put some pressure on the queenside and try to ruin my structure. So here, I could have taken, actually, even though it gives black a slight edge. And this line would have been playable, I guess. And yeah, let's see, after like takes back. But yeah, I mean, black already has like a slight advantage, so that wouldn't have been ideal. Alternatively, I could have also defended my pawn on b3 and played it like this. So it's possible I could have went into this. But instead, I try to create a counterattack. I try to go a little bit. I play bishop to a3. And I have ideas of pinning his bishop to his king and then playing bishop takes c5. So here, he doesn't really seem, afraid of that, and he plays a4 anyway, which is the best move. And I continue with my plan of rook d7. And here, something interesting happens. First off, if he just takes like this, which is what I wanted, then after this was what I wanted. I wanted him to go into well, he actually can't take on b3 because I would take on c5. This is what I wanted basically. I wanted him to go into something like this. But here he played the move king e8, which I was kind of expecting. And my idea would have been rook c7, but then I saw king d8. And he would have attacked my rook again. And I have to keep trying to make a threat on the c-pawn, so I would have played rook c6, but then king d7. And he's actually... I am going to be down a pawn in all variations, because I can't stay on the c-file to keep pressuring his pawn. I have to go rook a6, and then he just wins this pawn. And I have to find some only moves to not be much worse here. So after this, rook takes b3... I mean, this just looks bad because black's up a pawn already, and my pawns are doubled. He's gonna win the c pawn. The h3 pawn's falling, so I didn't want to go into an endgame down a pawn, even though the engine shrugs and says it's totally okay. So for that reason, I had a choice of being down a pawn, like in this line, so I decided to be interesting. I see that I'm going to be down a pawn in a rook and bishop endgame. So I try to create some sort of imbalance. I didn't really calculate it thoroughly because I sort of did it on intuition. Here I sack on the exchange with rook takes e7 check. The engine utterly hates it. It thinks I'm stupid. But I thought this was an interesting try because at least I thought I would have some good compensation. Because after he takes, bishop takes c5, king d7, and b4, at least I have two connected passed pawns on b4 and c4, and I'm only down a point in material. I have an extra pawn to compensate. My bishop is well placed. It's very solid. Keeps everything defended. The pawn it's blocking the rook from seeing the c pawn. The b pawn's nicely defended. I thought I had some good compensation here. The engine thinks I'm just stupid. It's -3.5 apparently. But I didn't really think I would have any better option. I'd just have to be in a endgame down a pawn, and I'd probably go misplay that as well, so I thought this was like the best chance. So here, Caden played the move king c6, and for a long time, I was actually thinking he'd play this move rook c8, threatening to, funnily enough, to sacrifice back into a winning king and pawn endgame. And that was actually what I was afraid of, that he would sacrifice his rook back and win the king and pawn endgame. Because I can't move my bishop, because I would hang the pawn on c4. So, but apparently this line, if he sacks back, it's a drawn endgame. And I'll show you this line. It's pretty fascinating. So we could have went into this line, and I was scared that Caden would sacrifice back on c5. And I thought this endgame was losing for white. It turns out to be a draw, because after this following sequence, king c6, king e3, king takes c5, king takes e4, sorry about that, king takes c4, king e5, king c3, king takes e6, king b2. It looks like he's promoting way before I'm getting there. f5, king takes a2, king f7. It's actually going to be pretty much a tie. King b3, he's threatening 3 squares to promote his pawn. We could have went into this crazy line. King takes g7, a3, f6, a2, f7, and he queens with check. That's the funny thing. He queens with check. Even though he queens with check, the engine still says it's a draw, because after king g8, this is a bishop's pawn. This is a well-known draw. And also, I'm just constantly threatening to promote. So apparently this line, it would have been a draw. So that's really cool. I was scared of rook c8, but apparently that endgame that would have ensued would have been totally fine for me. Maybe Caden saw all that. Maybe that's why he didn't play rook c8. Who knows? But I was scared of that. He played king c6, and I was kind of relieved to see that. So even though that's the best move. So here I play king e2. He plays this great move, rook d8. That's like the only winning move, I think. And that rook is just going to d3 where it belongs. And he's gonna infiltrate in my position. So I try to create some counterplay. I play king e3. He plays rook d3 check. I take, and he's going for rook a3. And here is where I start to get panicked. Like he's gonna win my a pawn. He's gonna have a pass around a4. I do not want that kind of counterplay. I was the one that was supposed to be getting counterplay, not him. So here, I play the move king d4 after some thought. I wanted to keep my bishop defended and support the move b5 check. At first, I was thinking about king e5 to try to win the pawn on e6, but that's just way too slow, because after rook takes a2, king takes a6, a3, like, my king is just not in my pieces are just not in the position to stop his pawn, and this would have been bad. Alternatively, I was thinking about bishop to f8 to try to create some counterplay on g7 and support b5 check that way. But again, I'm just way too slow. I need my king and bishop in the proximity of the pawn, and after just a3, I'm just way too slow here. Black's going to force me to sacrifice, and I'm just going to be totally busted. So that's why I wanted to play king d4 to try to get closer to the pawn and support b5, and it was a good thing I did that. So here he plays rook takes a2. Here, I still had no idea I was totally losing. Here I thought, like, maybe it's drawn. I didn't think I was winning, but I thought maybe it's drawn or black's barely better. I didn't know it was this over. So here, I play b5 check. Logically, that was my plan. King c7. Here, I play king c3. Just getting closer to the pawn, as I said. Here, he plays rook a1. Preparing to swing to h1 and win my h3 pawn, and also freeing up some room for his a pawn. And here I thought for a long time about what to do here. I thought about 3 moves: bishop to d4, which is what I played, king b4, and king b2. If I played king b, they all sort of transpose into the same line. I'll show you I'll show you the line. So bishop d4, he would have played this annoying move rook c1 check, forcing me to stay close to my c pawn. And it might look weird because he's sort of helping me bring my king forward. And then he hit me with a3. And as soon as that c-pawn falls, he's distracting my king from defending it. I have to take the a-pawn because it's just way too big of a threat. As soon as he deflects my king from that c-pawn, I knew my chances of winning or drawing were out the window. Those 2 pawns were the reason I was trying to create some resistance. The fact that he is eliminating that c-pawn and sort of disrupting the connection between them is the reason that he'd won this game. A3 is the only winning move here. He has to get rid of my connected pawns to not blunder into a draw, and the other lines transpose into the same thing, as I said. If I went king b4, he would have played a3, and if I played bishop d4, he would have played the move rook c1. So this sort of just transposes into the same line. Alternatively, with king b2, he would have played rook h1, and if I try to go after his pawn, he would play rook c1, and again, I have to stay close to the pawn and defend it with king c4, but then he would play a3 again. So the fact that he's just deflecting my king from defending the pawns is the reason that I realized that I'm cooked here. So that was a great find on his part. I'm forced to give up one of my connected pawns. He takes on c4, and here I knew I was just losing because even though I can take on g7, because I had a little bit of hope here because he can't take on f4 because he would actually blunder. He can't take on f4 because he would blunder a fork on e5. That would be some hope chess. I was not expecting him to fall for it. He played the move king b6 here. I played bishop e5. I'm not resigning. I'm trying to create some sort of fortress here. He plays the move h5. I'm down like 10, 15 minutes on the clock here. King b2. King takes b5. Bishop to b8. I try to wrap around to a7. Because after king c5, this was my idea. After king c5, I would have played bishop a7 check. King d5. There we go. King d5, and my idea was to try to create some sort of fortress with bishop to e3. Try to survive that way, but it doesn't really help because he just brings his king to e4. I try king b3. The fact that the rook is cutting my king off on that side of the board is also not helping. I knew this endgame was totally losing, unfortunately. So I try my best to fight on. He plays king f3. I play bishop c5, giving up the f-pawn in hopes of getting my king closer by cutting off the c-file. He plays king takes f4. I try to bring my king closer, but he's very annoying. He plays king e4, doesn't even let that happen. I'm pinned to my bishop, so I try king b5. He plays king d5. He's forcing me to the side. I play bishop to a7. I'm trying to prevent the check. He plays rook c4. I try king b6 to maybe wrap around on the back rank. He plays rook c3. I play h4. He plays rook c4. I play bishop to b8. He takes on h4. I play king c7. Rook b4. If he takes on b8, it's resignable, so I try to keep the bishop on. But here he plays h4. f3. I try to stop the pawn like this with h3. I try to go with like bishop g1, but after rook b2, I resign here because h2 is unstoppable, and I'd have to give my bishop up, and he would soon promote and win. So yeah, that was a very painful game here. He just outplayed me. Like if you look at the accuracy, he played at 94.5. That's extremely good. Even I didn't play too bad. I played at 88.4. So I just basically got outplayed here. That's what happens when you play people who are 2100 and higher. They sort of squeeze you positionally, and it's basically like a slow and painful death. I mean, I'm proud of the way I played. I played at a good accuracy, but I just got massively outplayed. And I thought that my exchange sack on e7 would be sort of an interesting endgame, but apparently the engine was not a fan of it. But it was still interesting to go into, and Caden, it was a great game. I hope we can play again in another tournament, get a rematch in. I hope you also liked playing me in the game, and if you like the content like this, and let me know in the comments what you thought of the game, and I'll share the next 2 games soon. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not, and have a great rest of your day or night. Bye. Thank you for the game.